Hey guys, this is Brian Sykes with the AI Lab. This is some footage from a film that my stepmom just mailed to me, shared it with me on a Google Drive, and this is from about 1981. This is a family trip to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And this is kind of interesting because it's a trip with my dad, my stepmom, my brother Justin there with my dad. You can see him in the picture, little redhead. And also my cousin Wayne came with us on this trip. But anyway, what was kind of fun with this was, of course, seeing myself. That's me on the left there in the white t-shirt. There were some clips in here that I thought was really interesting, and I thought this is a perfect time to kind of take a little bit of the personality that was Brian Sykes and expand upon it. So the first thing I did is I went through and actually cut a clip of me being goofy me, just having fun as a little kid. There's a little segment that's going to come up in just a second where I've, right here, dancing on the pier back with my dad, my cousin, and my brother. So anyway, I thought this is a perfect opportunity first to throw some music to this little clip, get something that'll get my kids laughing, but then also to play with a tool in Runway called Expand, where we can actually take a piece of video and expand the footprint of the video. So let me actually walk you through the process of what I did. First is cutting out this little segment of video that you just saw. I went into Udio and created a little soundtrack. Now I had two different options that popped up, and the prompt that I gave to it was hard driving 70s Leonard Skinner style classic rock, dancing rhythm, exuberant and celebratory. And it gave me two different options. Here's a piece of the first. And so here's the next one, is Raise Your Spirit. So anyway, it was kind of fun to see the different options that were available. So anyway, from those collections, I created All right, now here's what I want to point out, a couple things in this video. First, this is fun. It's a lot of interesting things happening. But what I want to point out is this is a learning process for me when I was jumping through the expand. When you're working with a video, it has to work with the footage that exists. So in this first frame, great. We've got a very defined cutoff, but as the camera is moving in relation to the people that are moving towards it, we get a few things that happen. Notice on the right-hand side, there is the beginning of a tree, the fence ends, and if that was the end, great. But because the camera is moving, as you move forward, we'll see a couple things that happen. One is to the left, we see the little bit of railing that's happening on the fence there. As we continue forward, you'll notice that there is a car that shows up on the right-hand side. Okay, so those are things that have to be accounted for in the footage. So just as it is, what I'm going to do is actually take it through Runway and have Runway expand on this video. So let me show you how that works. Inside of Runway, here's what we want to do is we want to start a new session. Now, as we get started with this new session, you've got a few options over here on the left. First is prompt, which is where we can basically start from a prompt to create a render. The second is camera control. The third is act one, and this is where we do the voice, basically act out something, and it uses our animation, but this is not what I'm interested in. This fourth one is what I want to do is expand video. Now with expand video, when I click on it, it's going to tell us to select a video, and it lets us know that it'll either reframe it to a landscape or to a portrait mode. So I'm going to select the video, and the one I'm interested in grabbing is going to be this Brian dancing video. Now you can name your session when you're here, but basically what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to define what we're actually creating here. So when this first pulls up, because my video original is close to square, it has the option of either going with a landscape format or a portrait format. So I'm going to go with portrait, and you see it's added above and below. And we can do a prompt here. This is optional. Leaving it blank actually is going to allow Runway to kind of look at the whole video and come up with some things. What I actually did with mine was to basically say it's a handheld video and allow it to run through the process of creating this. Now, once you generate, it tells you here the first 10 seconds of your input video will be used. You'll be charged 50 credits. And you can basically start from there and generate. Now, I've already ran through this process one time, so I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Here's what I ended up creating from that first go around. Now, where this black line is, that was where that video originally ended. So everything you see beneath that is what Runway is coming up with. Not bad. This is actually quite impressive. Okay, so with this, we can actually take this video and download it. And you'll see if you pause things, you can actually see where some things don't line up perfectly, but it's okay. It's not perfect, but this was just kind of a fun little render. I can then take and go to another expand, basically drop that video in place, change the format to a landscape format, and this is what it created. Now, some funny things are happening. The car over here looks a little strange. But everything else tends to stay in frame pretty well. The water and the beach, this pier that's running along the side here, all of that works for what we've got. But again, notice that car, it's kind of doing some strange things. But all in all, considering this was a little, almost square image, and it created everything you see here, kind of impressive. Okay, so what if I wanted to come in and create a reference image? In other words, I wanted to start from this image, the very beginning of this file. I wanted to take this and to expand upon it. Now, if your camera stays stationary, this works really well, because what I can do is I can literally expand like this, do a screen capture, and then take this in Photoshop and clean it up. And I actually walked through that process working with Midjourney, and I basically cleaned up the background. I gave it a prompt of a young family walking away from the beach. To the left side are sand dunes, and dune grasses. To the right is a parking lot with vintage muscle cars from the late 60s, vintage film processing, grainy film, aged film coloration, circa 1981. And these are the results that it gave me. These are actually pretty decent. Really was impressed with this one, even though this one threw some pine trees and a house on the beach. This one, I like the car, I like the setting. But again, remember, as it moves forward, you're going to get some distortions. And let me show you actually what that looks like. So I'm going to come back into here, go to dashboard, and here's where I was playing around with using these different backgrounds. So here's the image. This is using the muscle car on the beach. And let me show you what actually happens with this render. Okay, it looks good at first, but notice it's starting to fill in as it moves forward, because it's trying to compensate for the things that actually exist in the video. Okay, so not perfect. And let's look at what if we do, let's try it again just to see what, this is another render working with the same. And again, it's trying to make sense of the other elements that are happening in the originating video. And so doing, it creates a lot of distortions and randomness in the background. Now, allowing Midjourney to kind of do its own thing, look at what it does here. This is where I did not add a reference image. I just used the video and allowed it to create what we see. Again, not perfect, but this is much better in regards to it keeping up with the context of the original image and the results. So, Runway Expand, you can expand a square image in either a landscape or portrait mode. If you have an existing portrait style video, you can expand it horizontally and go for a landscape format. The things to be in mind is if the camera is going to be moving at all, you have to account for that and really let Runway do its magic as far as filling in what that background might look like. You can choose to write a prompt or not. Runway is going to process it to the best it can based off the results that you're asking for. So here's a fun little exercise, and hope to see what you guys create. Again, this is Brian Sykes with the AI Lab.